Breaking news out of the United States. A suspect has officially been apprehended in the case of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And these are all of the details you need to know that are emerging right now as we speak and as we dive into the details of this story. A 22-year-old Utah man by the name of Tyler Robinson has now been apprehended, as the FBI and the president are now announcing to the general public. So there's plenty of new photos here of him, but let's look at the details of this situation, which has now ended a 2-day manhunt looking to apprehend the killer. The suspect, as I mentioned, is identified as Tyler Robinson, and he had apparently confessed to a family friend, or as Reuters says here, quote, implied that he had committed the murder to that friend. That person in turn contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office on Thursday, and I guess they were looking into it. Now they have apprehended the suspect. Reuters reports that a family member interviewed by investigators said Robinson had become more political recently and spoke in a disparaging manner about Charlie Kirk. Robinson was taken into custody on Thursday night, about 33 hours after Kirk's murder. The FBI director, Patel, said at a press conference, Kirk, who was a close ally, of course, of Donald Trump, was killed by a single bullet as he spoke on stage at an outdoor amphitheater. And this is a big development, guys. Again, there was a lot of questions as to if they had found the shooter. Not only that, there was many different people who were suspected of actually committing this crime. The first person who was arrested was a man who was in his late 50s, early 60s, with many people speculating that he may have been some form of patsy, some form of distraction from the actual killer. After that, footage did leak of a man who was on the roof at the UVU campus, shooting from the roof and then actually jumping off of the roof and making it down without injuring himself. This led people to believe that the shooting may have been conducted by some form of trained professional, but experts now saying this is not exactly a skilled professional in the way that we thought it was, but just a person who has firsthand experience with firearms. So we're going to take a look at some of the new pictures here. These are the new pictures that are surfacing of the killer, or the alleged killer, I guess I should still say at this point. And as you can see, the same shoes as were being worn in the photo of him here at home were being worn at the scene of the crime. So this is actually a pretty strong, consistent detail when it comes to the identity of the shooter. We do have more photos here of Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old Utah resident. Again, for anybody just joining, who is now the prime suspect in the murder of Charlie Kirk. And he is wearing the same shoes in all of these photos.
Congratulations.
There's a video clip here. Let's take a listen to this.
The Resident Presidential Scholarship from Utah State University. The value of this scholarship is approximately $32,000. This scholarship is available for 4 years or 8 semesters.
Now, President Trump did do an interview about this, and he was actually the first person not only to announce that Charlie Kirk had officially been pronounced dead, but also to then announce that the killer had been apprehended. Let's take a listen to the Trump interview with Fox and Friends, where he tells reporters, quote, "We got him." That was the official statement here from President Trump. Let's take a listen right now.
Yesterday, you were at the 9/11 memorial. We were all watching that. Yeah. J.D. Vance was supposed to be with you. He went out to be with Charlie Kirk's family and to get the body back to his hometown in Arizona. And you said you were going to award him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is very nice of you. Any updates on this suspect?
Yeah. Can I always say, I think, just to protect us all, and so Fox doesn't get sued and we all don't get sued and everything else. But I think with a high degree of certainty, we have him
Right
in
now.
custody, right? In custody. Everyone did a great job. We worked with the local police, the governor. Everybody did a great job. You know, getting somebody that you start off with absolutely nothing. And we started off with a clip that made him look like an ant that was almost useless. We just saw there was somebody up there. And so much work has been done over the last 2.5 days. You know, it's amazing, actually, when you start off with that and then all of a sudden you get lucky or talent or whatever it is. But, yeah, I think we're in great shape.
Mr.
And
President,
he's in custody.
Your suspicion was that he was radical left, and now you have more information. What can you share with us about his ideology?
Yeah, Lawrence, let me just, and by the way, Lawrence is doing a good job. What's going on
Fantastic
here?
job, yeah.
Mr.
I'll
President.
tell you what, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you, sir.
I said you were going to do well. Yeah, I think that I don't want to go too far. I'd like to tell you some stories at how it happened, but essentially somebody that was very close to him turned him in. And that happens when you had some of those good shots. Somebody is going to say, whether it's a parent or whatever, I'd rather not say right now. They're going to announce it today, sometime later, probably talk about that. But somebody close to him turned him, you know, they said, whoa. It's interesting where we had very good pictures, but not great, not perfect. And when you look at it, what happened is somebody, and this happens a lot. It happened with the crazy Boston bomber. It happened with others. Somebody that's close recognizes even a little tilt of the head, which nobody else would do. And somebody that was very close to him said, that's him. And essentially went to the father, went to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic, by the way. And the person was involved with law enforcement, but was a person of faith, a minister. And brought him to a U.S. Marshal, who was fantastic. And the father convinced the son, this is it. And again, I'm always subject to be corrected, but you know, I'm just giving you, based on what I'm hearing, they'll give you a much more active. I just heard about it 5 minutes before I walked in. As I'm walking in, they said, looking real good. They have the person that they wanted. So you have breaking news, don't you, huh?
Thank you.
You always have breaking news, Ainsley.
Right.
Sean's going to be very disappointed that we're not doing it on his show.
He'll be very thankful and appreciative of the
I think
police
so.
officers that got this guy.
They did a great job, everybody. And everybody worked together. Pam Bondi is incredible, by the way. People don't know what a star she is. She's incredible. And it all worked out.
Could I ask you just some clarification? So a pastor was able to turn him in, or they got the family of the shooter to turn them in?
Well, it was a minister, and the minister went to a minister who was involved with law enforcement, by the way. And his good friend is a top U.S. Marshal. And they took it from there. And then it was a father got involved, namely his father, and said, we got to go in. And they, so I understand it. And again, subject to change. But, you know, the facts are the facts. We have the person that we think is the person we're looking for. But they drove into the police headquarters, and he's there now.
Did the father know about what the son had done?
I don't know. I'm going to let you get all those questions later, because I can't tell you how accurate. The bottom line is they have somebody that they think did it.
For anyone who's just joining, a suspect has now been apprehended and is in custody as per the president and the FBI. The suspect in question, who is accused of murdering Charlie Kirk, again, for the people who are just tuning in, is Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old Utah man. His family evidently got wind of the fact that he may have committed a murder. I suppose he was making comments, at least it's reported that he was making comments insinuating that he had done something very bad. The family was aware that he had become recently radicalized and more political. That is what the reports are saying now. In the recent weeks and months leading up to this murder, leading up to this assassination, and the family, I guess, either got it out of him or put two and two together that he did, in fact, murder Charlie Kirk. Reuters reported that he had become more political by the day and had been speaking badly about Charlie Kirk in the time leading up to this assassination. Let's listen to some more here from President Trump.
So, Mr. President, there is the death penalty in Utah.
Yes.
And I do know this is going to be a federal case, and there's many of us believe that Charlie was targeted because of his political ideology.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to this guy?
Well, I hope he's going to be found guilty, I would imagine, and I hope he gets the death penalty. What he did, Charlie Kirk was the finest person. He didn't deserve this. He worked so hard and so well. Everybody liked him. I've been watching, even the left is having a hard time. They fired this guy, Dowd, from MSDNC, who's a terrible guy, terrible human being, but they fired him. I hear they're firing other people. And, you know, we're talking about radical left. Now, they're a little bit, but radical left networks and cable channels, horrible channels like MS, I always call it DNC because it's, you know, somehow affiliated with the Democrat National Committee. So, you know, it's a little statement you make. But MSNBC, but NBC, ABC, CBS, they're all terrible, absolutely terrible and unfair. But even they have been giving it sort of like this can't be allowed to happen.
And I just love moment of silence at the Yankee game, moment of silence at the Redskin game, Commanders game last night, because they understand this doesn't matter who you voted for. This was a special person. My opinion is that you have people, when a soldier dies, you write a personal letter, you feel it. When something happens in America, you feel it, you show up for it. I feel like with Charlie Kirk, from what I witnessed, is for you, it's almost like a family member.
You know, Don said to me, he's sort of like a son to you. Charlie got involved like 11 years ago, I think. He started, you know, he's a brilliant guy, but he didn't go to college. He actually started in college. He was so bored that he left. He would have done very well in college if he wanted to, but he was brilliant. I always said, you know, can you get a degree because you're sort of used to having people like you went to college, right? Yeah. But he just didn't have the patience to do it. And he started this really during what would normally be college, maybe even sooner than that, but what would normally be college. And it's become a movement. And, you know, I won youth. A Republican never wins youth, but I won youth. I will tell you, TikTok helped me, but he helped me with TikTok. But he helped me with youth. I've never seen a person who's, in this case, older than the people we're talking about, you know, in many cases. I've never seen young people or any group go to one person like they did to Charlie. Mm-hmm. He'd go out to Arizona, to any school, to Utah, where he was, but any school, also East Coast, anywhere. And he would have bigger rallies than any radical left speaker. And it was killing them because he'd have 5,000 people show up, 10,000 people show up. They'd go and they'd have 50 people, but they talk big league, right? Now, he was an unbelievable talent, but he was more, it wasn't really so much a talent. He just really believed it. He just believed it. He loved young people. He wanted to help young people. And he didn't deserve this. He was truly a good person.
Mm-hmm. Very accurate point here from Trump as well, guys. I did a stream yesterday talking about this news when it first broke, and I took callers from all across America. We had incredible commentary from people from all states in the U.S., and the one thing that really struck me, and I have to say somewhat surprised me about this entire stream that I did on the initial news, was that the people who wanted to call in and speak with me the most were young people. I'm talking people 15, 16, 17 years old were trying to get through on the line with me on Instagram, and they were the ones who were the most passionate to speak about Charlie Kirk. They were sending me messages saying, I'm a young conservative. That was the number one thing in my DMs. I'm a young conservative. I would like to speak on Charlie Kirk. Please let me on the air to talk about this. And this isn't exactly something I pictured. Again, Charlie wasn't that old himself. He was 31 when he was assassinated here the other day. But when you think conservative, at least for me, I typically thought of older people, at least 30s and 40s. I wasn't picturing young people under the age of 20 when I'm thinking conservatives. But the term is truly accurate when you hear the term young conservatives. Charlie Kirk touched the youth, the young people. And again, this is something I couldn't have exactly anticipated, but it sort of makes sense when you look at the way that these clips were pushed across social media, across TikTok, across all these platforms where, again, it's mostly people of that age demographic. It does make sense and it does add up, but I was at least thinking college-age students, since that's where he did most of his appearances, most of his public rallies. But really, it was people who were under 20 years old That was the prime audience for Charlie Kirk. Let's listen more from President Trump.
Do you think it's important for people to see how he died? I think it's to see the horrific. Did you see it?
I didn't watch. I didn't want to watch. I heard about it.
You don't want to watch.
I would have never made a good doctor. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I heard enough. I didn't want to watch it. I didn't want to remember Charlie that way. But yeah, it's horrific, is what I hear. Just horrific. I hear that nobody can. I know friends that were there, and they told me. They said what we witnessed. The physical emotion of being there, or watching it on television. He was somebody that I always said he was very talented, but when you love something so much, it's almost not even talent. It's that you do it well because you like it. It's a passion. And he had a passion for this. I spoke to his wife yesterday. She's like devastated.
Of course.
But in between the devastation, they want to keep Turning Point going. Because so many people called in to me with donations. I don't know who. Do we give donations to her? Do we give it to Turning Point? Do we give it to, any one of the hundreds of colleges that he worked with or universities? And they want to keep Turning Point going. They think they can do it. He had a very good staff, I noticed. Charlie would call me up. I'm president of the United States. And I get a call like a day before. Sir, could you come to Arizona tomorrow? I said, Charlie, I'm president. I can't just come. He said, it's so important. Could you play? And I'd usually try and get there. He's the only one.
20,000.
He was such a great guy that he had to end this way. But in many ways, he's bigger now because of what happened. He was really big, important. And I guess this doesn't help his family very much when I say this, but in terms of, very, very important, getting that such a good word, such a solid word. We have so many bad people, so many bad philosophies, ideologies, politics. His was basically just good. Family, he talked about family, he talked about get married, go get married. Sounds old-fashioned when you think about it, but he's right. He was just on. And it's a shame that voice has been stopped. But I think from what I see, he had I got to know a lot of his people. He had great people, and that includes his wife. She's very talented. He said she's the best writer he's ever seen. She's a writer, among other things. So maybe they can really keep it going.
So, Mr. President.
By the way, tell me if you guys noticed this as well. I have never actually seen Trump like this when it comes to him being so sentimental speaking about somebody. I mean, saying Charlie Kirk was like a son to him, the way he's speaking about him and sharing stories about his experiences, talking with him. This is a softened version of Trump, at least here in this moment for this situation, that I don't think we've ever seen, especially since he won again in this last election. After the arrest, the mugshot rather, and the legal trials and all the stuff that Trump has been through, for right or for wrong, it's really created a hardened version of Trump to the likes of which we've never seen. This dude means war this time. He's not messing around. He's not here to be soft. We've seen a toughened, hardened version of Donald Trump ever since he's won, at least in my opinion. This is a side of Trump, and, we saw him also at the 9/11 memorial yesterday, looking visibly upset, visibly sad. I don't think we've seen Donald Trump presenting this range of emotion or empathy for another person ever. Donald Trump has a lot of bad qualities. Some would say he has a lot of great qualities. I think we can all agree, well, when it comes to politics, we can never all agree. Just wait till I open the chat. But I think we can agree Donald Trump isn't necessarily known for being Mr. Empathy, okay? Donald Trump is, again, I guess it depends who you ask. I have never seen him presenting himself in this way. This seems to really have rocked him, and I think it's due to a couple of factors. I think the number one is the connection that he had with him. Kirk helped him win the election. Kirk helped him connect with the youth. When you hear Trump talk about winning this last election, that's one of the main things he discussed. I won with TikTok. I won with the youth. This is something Trump is obviously very proud of. I think that's the first element. And the second element, too, and I don't think Trump may not have clocked this yet. I don't think he really realizes it, probably. But he may have an extra degree of sympathy because this was almost him. If Donald Trump wouldn't have turned his head that day at that rally where he was shot at, that would have been him. The gruesome video of a person being shot in the head, that would have been Trump, not Charlie Kirk. So I would imagine that on some level, again, I don't think Donald Trump has an amazing ability of being able to put himself in other people's shoes. I personally don't think that's his strong suit. But I think on some level that may be a factor here, because this easily could have been him.
Was it a one-off? Was this guy that assassinated Charlie?
It seems to be.
He wasn't a part of a bigger network or anything that we know of?
Well, you don't know. I mean, you don't know. I hear these people talking so badly about me and others. I'm a guy that just wants to make America great again. You know, we want to look at what we did in D.C. We took D.C., probably the single worst place in the country in terms of crime. There's no crime. It's a crime-free area. I went to dinner the other night, stood out in the middle of the street, did interviews with you guys, but I did interviews right in the middle of the street. If I did that 6 months ago or a year ago, I would have about a 30% chance of being here to talk about it.
Or getting shouted down.
And that was idiotic, by the way. I mean, when you saw Trump standing there in the middle of the street to go to eat at Joe's Seafood, I was like, what are you doing, bro? And I don't think it's necessarily idiotic on Trump's part as much as the Secret Service. I mean, when you guys see that not only did he go to dinner, he's standing in the middle of the street in broad daylight, risking his life, but then the restaurant was infiltrated by protesters. Protesters came in, to which he walked up to them and stared them down. We're going to roll that video after this clip of Trump getting ambushed by protesters at the restaurant, which he's speaking on. But Trump saying that if it would have been 6 months ago, it's unsafe. I think it's unsafe now. I was absolutely flabbergasted to see Trump going out to dinner like a regular guy. If I was him, I would not be doing that, bro. Not right now, not in this climate. I think that was one of the craziest moves we've seen in a while.
And, you know, it's amazing. D.C. is now a great safe. Now we're fixing it up physically, too. We're putting in new medians. We're going to give everything a little coat of asphalt so we don't have potholes all over. You know, filling a pothole is fine temporarily, but they'd fill a pothole and never touch it for 10 years. Right. You know, old potholes don't look good. We're going to fix it up. We're going to make it beautiful at a very minimal cost. And we're going to have the most beautiful capital in the world. But even more importantly than that, it's very safe. People would come from Iowa, they'd come from Indiana, and their son would be killed. They'd be killed. And now you can come and you can enjoy. I was very embarrassed because I had the president of Poland in, and they started asking me about D.C. a couple of weeks ago. And I said, we're very proud of the fact that nobody's been killed this week. And he looks at me like, you know, head of Poland. He says, whoa, is that? And he said, well, and I'm telling the press, you know, they're doing the little thing in the Oval Office, our great Oval Office, our very upgraded Oval. And the press is asking me, well, what about that? He said, we haven't had anybody killed in the last 3 weeks, and it's been like 9 years since nobody's been killed. Every week somebody's been killed for years, and we haven't had crime. And they said it's down 87%. I said, what about the 13%? You know, why wouldn't it be? It's down 100%. Right. So you'd be very proud of your capital. You can go there now, and by the way, business is booming. Restaurants are booming, and this all took place within. We realized that deranged Jack Smith was deranged. Okay, she's a phenomenal judge. I don't know her. I appointed her, but I don't know her at all in Florida. And she's a, you know, really talented person, brilliant judge. And by coincidence, she got that case. And, you know, he's like a wise guy, troublemaker, it seems. But we have to have, for like the person that killed the young girl, she was like a beautiful girl, 22, 23 years old. And, you know, when she got onto that train, you could see that she just wondered how, even before this happened, she almost like snuck on. She didn't want to make anything. She just wanted to be. She was afraid.
Finished her job.
No, she was afraid.
Trump speaking on the Ukrainian immigrant Irina Zaruska, who was murdered just 2 days before Charlie Kirk. If you guys want to see my full commentary on that, I just posted a video on that today.
But if you look at
this, subscribe and go check it out.
Her before the way she sort of like she wanted to just, and she's looking at her phone like this. She felt very unsafe, okay? We can't have that. And then this maniac gets up from behind. That's another one I didn't want to watch. I didn't watch it. I knew what happened, but I didn't want to watch it. And what he did to her was unbelievable. And then he walks through, the knife is dripping blood and everything else. One thing I say, we have to have quick trials.
Yeah.
I call it quick trial, because in China, they do have quick trials, you know? They don't wait 6 years and
yeah, you start off guilty and you end up
reason.
guilty in China.
Oh, it's terrible. What happens here is you go through 7, 8 years, and by the time it ends, and then they say, well, you know, he had a reason to do it because he wasn't treated right in grade school, and it's his teacher's fault, and it's the government's fault. That guy they should have a trial the following day, as far as.
But do you know that they said?
I mean, when you have somebody on tape, here's a guy on tape getting ready to, and then he did his thing. The whole thing is on tape. This should not be going on. This trial will go on. It'll start in 2, 3, 4 years. We have to have, in certain places that do it differently, they have what's called quick trial. You have a fast trial, a fast verdict.
Right.
Now, if he's guilty, we're going to have to keep him, feed him, take care of him for, let's say he's 28 or 29 years old, I understand. So, like for 50 years,
yeah,
we're going to be feed.
But he never should have been let out.
Now, in Utah, he shouldn't have been let out. And the judge should be responsible for that, the way she did it. But in Utah, they have the death penalty. And you have a very good governor there. The governor, I've gotten to know him. The governor is very intent on the death penalty in this case, and he should be. In North Carolina, you also have it, but we have to make sure that happens. That was a horrific crime.
What do you guys think? Should the shooter of Charlie Kirk, and I could also apply it to the person who killed the Ukrainian immigrant, should they have the death penalty implemented on them in a quick trial? Obviously, you can't have a quick trial in every state, as Trump is saying. This, I think, shows the limits of presidential power to a degree, because Trump can't snap his fingers and give the death penalty. That's not exactly the way it works in a country like the United States of America. But do you guys think the death penalty should be applied in this case? And by the way, we are going to look into more details about this, but it does appear that the death penalty will be implemented very quickly, and the entire chat is lighting up saying yes. Chat, I see you guys. I'm reading you guys. I'm here with you guys.
But I think Ainsley's point is in the big picture. What do you say to people who are saying they see the assassination attempts in your life, they see the Minnesota lawmakers, they see what happened, they see what happened to Charlie, and they're saying, what's going on with the political process? Now, instead of trying to get votes, you're trying to survive. There are lawmakers canceling their events this weekend, AOC on the left and a lot of lawmakers on the right saying, I'm a little concerned about doing a public event. As president, what do you tell them?
I say you have to go forward. You just have to go forward. You watch, as closely as you can. You have, I have great people. I mean, I have people now much better and far more. When I was hit in Butler, they wouldn't, it was Biden, but they wouldn't approve. We had 55,000 people. We had, we get these tremendous crowds, and I'd have far fewer people than Biden who'd go out. He had many more Secret Service people than me, and he'd have like 8 people show up, but I have 55 or 60,000 people show up. Butler's a great example of that. And we have great people right now. We had a thing happen that's very big. People don't even talk about it. We've won a lot of great decisions. The Supreme Court, I give them a lot of credit. We have a decision on merit. In other words, this country is now a country of merit. You don't have to be a woman or a man or a this or a that.
Give me the best person.
You don't have to be white or black or Asian or whatever it is. It's all based on merit now. And I wasn't sure if anybody would have the courage to make that decision. That was a big, big decision. When you go down to Washington and you see these people, they happen to be strong soldiers. They're big and strong. They don't mind fighting, as opposed to somebody that really isn't equipped to do that weighs perhaps 100 pounds.
And has a third nationality or sexuality.
Correct. You can say it. I'd rather not say it. I want to see. But it's based on merit. You hire people now based on merit. That's the way the country got great. And I give so much credit to the Supreme Court for that. So with some of these people, though, we're going to have to do, the politicians are one thing, and we can talk about that, but we have to have trials that go quickly.
Okay.
We can't have a trial. like this guy. We can't have a trial that's going to start in 3.5 years from now.
I'm Steve Ducey.
There you have it, guys. President Trump doing his first official sit-down interview since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. For anybody who's just joining in now, we have all of the full details that are available so far. We're going to be breaking down everything you need to know about the suspect who has just been apprehended. And the suspect is Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old Utah resident. This is the first official mugshot photo that we have of him. There are many other photos circulating, and the photos are consistent all across the board. In fact, he was wearing the same shoes in many of the photos that are now surfacing of him as he was wearing on the actual day of the crime. And this is a person who his family reported ended up being radicalized politically. His family did report that he was not overly political in the beginning. This was a guy who was fairly neutral, but as time went on, and I guess as the climate continued to get worse in the United States and more volatile, his family reports that he did in fact become more radicalized politically. His family also stating that he spoke negatively about Charlie Kirk many times leading up to this assassination. Now, interesting to hear what Trump has to say. I mean, I think that, what he's saying makes sense to a degree. I think that when you kill somebody like this, I mean, I can't really think of a better use for the death penalty. Where I stand on the death penalty is I think that it should be allowed in certain scenarios. I know that many states do still have it. I would say for child predators, for people who commit mass murders or acts of terrorism, in my opinion, I think the death penalty is completely appropriate. Because again, if the death penalty can't be implemented in those situations, then what is the death penalty for? If we can't give the death penalty to a child predator or to a mass murderer or to a terrorist, well, who should get it then? In that case, it shouldn't even exist. And many people do feel that way as well, that it shouldn't exist. And that's an opinion. I can understand that. I can understand both sides because it is it's an eye for an eye. It's a life for a life. One side could argue that it doesn't make anything better, but I do think it's a very valid point that why should the United States citizens spend tax dollars housing and feeding people who have committed acts of domestic terrorism or terrible things to this country? Why would people want to spend their tax dollars in that way? It certainly makes sense to me why they would be opposed to that. So it does sound like the Utah governor is going to be pushing for the death penalty. We're going to get, plenty more details of this again. And, shout out to everybody who's in here right now. We're giving you all the live updates. If you want to stay in tune with all the biggest updates or the biggest breaking news that happens day to day, make sure to subscribe. I'm live and or posting videos every single day. So we're going to take a look at the governor speaking on the situation here. And I do believe he spoke about the death penalty as well. And apparently he says he got emotional. We'll also take a look at Patel, the FBI director, who spoke his piece on this as well. But let's start with the Utah governor, because this is the person who's really going to be able to make this call. And in a strange and twisted way, the Utah governor actually might have more leg room to do something about this than Donald Trump. Because again, the fact that Trump can't implement the death penalty for this person, one, is very telling of the system in America, because there are still checks and balances that need to be followed. There's still due processes that need to be had, even though Trump's administration has gone around due process for certain criminals and certain people in the past months. But when it comes to certain situations of people who are incarcerated, you can't just go around due process in the way that you could with maybe people who are non-citizens or whatever the case may be. But it's a fascinating commentary on the legal system in the United States and also the limits of presidential power. People seem to have the idea that the president can do whatever they want. Trump, I think has definitely exercised maybe more power than some other presidents due to the fact that he has implemented many executive orders. The executive orders have given him power. He's not the only president to utilize executive orders. Of course, Biden used them, Obama used them, and probably most presidents have used them at some point. But still, there are limits to what he can do, and there are limits to the scope of the president's power. The Utah governor, on the other hand, actually might be able to make things move a little bit faster, even though he's not the leader of the free world. He is the leader of this state. So let's take a listen to what the governor had to say live and direct.
Thank you again to our incredible law enforcement team who has worked so hard. Sheriff, I got a solid 90 minutes last night, so I'm probably the most well-rested person up here. Ladies and gentlemen, I get the microphone, so I hope you'll permit me a moment just to share a few more thoughts about where we are and how we got here and maybe a little bit of where we go from here. I don't want to get too preachy, but I think it's important that we, with eyes wide open, understand what's happening in our country today. I've heard people say, well, why are we so invested in this? There's violence happening all across our country. And violence is tragic everywhere, and every life taken is a challenge.
I will show the video of the protesters in the restaurant, guys. I will show that, but I do want to make sure to stay on topic just for a moment. But we will look at the video of Trump clashing with protesters as well. I want to make sure to stay on topic for this first half of this stream.
Child of God who deserves our love and respect and dignity. This is certainly about the tragic death. Political assassination of Charlie Kirk. But it is also much bigger than an attack on an individual. It is an attack on all of us. It is an attack on the American experiment. It is an attack on our ideals. This cuts to the very foundation of who we are, of who we have been, and who we could be in better times. Political violence is different than any other type of violence for lots of different reasons. One, because in the very act that Charlie championed of expression, that freedom of expression that is enshrined in our founding documents, in having his life taken in that very act, makes it more difficult for people to feel like they can share their ideas, that they can speak freely. We will never be able to solve all the other problems, including the violence problems that people are worried about, if we can't have a clash of ideas safely and securely. Even, especially those ideas with which you disagree. That's why this matters so much. Over the last 48 hours, I have been as angry as I have ever been, as sad as I have ever been. And it was, as anger pushed me to the brink, it was actually Charlie's words that pulled me back. I'd like to share some of those. And specifically right now, if I could, I need to talk to the young people in our state, in my state, and all across the country. As President Trump reminded me, he said, you know who really loved Charlie? The youths. And he's right. Young people loved Charlie, and young people hated Charlie.
I'm glad he mentioned that, because that's the one part of this narrative, just really quick before we keep rolling this, that's the one part of the narrative that I think is starting to get lost here. I understand that especially people on the right, and of course people from all sides of the political aisle, but especially people on the right, are in heavy mourning right now. But the idea that Charlie Kirk was somehow some beloved figure across the world is, I'm sorry, completely ludicrous. I mean, this was a guy who was somewhat infamous as well as being loved by millions of people. There's no doubt he had a very strong base and a very loyal base of people who admired him and looked up to him. But we also can't forget the fact that he did have many millions of people who despised him as well. And part of the fact that he was so famous, part of the fact that he had so much notoriety was due to the element of hatred that surrounded him. You know, there's a reason he had so much security. There's a reason he had private bodyguards everywhere he went. There's a reason for all of this. So, you know, when Trump sits there and says everybody loved Charlie Kirk, I mean, that couldn't be further from the truth. There were many millions of people who did love Charlie Kirk and who still do to this day, but certainly not a universally beloved figure by any stretch of the imagination.
And Charlie went into those places anyway. And these are the words that have helped me. Charlie said, when people stop talking, that's when you get violence. He said, the weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. The only way out of the labyrinth of suffering is to forgive. Welcome without judgment, love without condition, forgive without limit. He said, always forgive your enemies. Nothing annoys them so much. A few months ago, I referenced this last night, Charlie posted to social media, when things are moving very fast and people are losing their minds, it's important to stay grounded. Turn off your phone, read scripture, spend time with friends, and remember, internet fury is not real life. It's going to be okay. He again said, when you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to commit violence. He said, what we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have a reasonable agreement, where violence is not an option. Now, again,
the person talking, for anyone just joining, I saw a couple people saying, who's the guy at the bottom? This is the governor of Utah, who will have a main role in how this crime is prosecuted with the suspect who has been identified. We're going to play the rest of his remarks, and then we're going to round up everything we've covered so far for the people just joining. They have found a suspect, and we have the mugshot, we have the photos. We're going to look at more details and figure out everything we know about the suspect, but the current speaker is the Utah governor.
To my young friends out there, you are inheriting a country where politics feels like rage. It feels like rage is the only option. But through those words, we have a reminder that we can choose a different path. Your generation has an opportunity to build a culture that is very different than what we are suffering through right now. Not by pretending differences don't matter, but by embracing our differences and having those hard conversations. I think we need more moral clarity right now. I hear all the time that words are violence. Words are not violence. Violence is violence. And there is one person responsible for what happened here. And that person is now in custody and will be charged soon and will be held accountable. And yet, all of us have an opportunity right now.
Cash Patel is like, thank God something's distracting from the Epstein files. He's like, phew, God damn, I've been trying to get these people off my back for a minute now. Look at him. Thank God nobody's asking me about Epstein.
Now to do something different. I want to thank my fellow Utahns. This bad stuff happens. For 33 hours, I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us, that somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country. Sadly, that prayer was not answered the way I had hoped for, just because I thought it would make it easier on us if we could just say, hey, we don't do that here. And indeed, Utah is a special place. We lead the nation in charitable giving. We lead the nation in service every year. But it did happen here. And and it was one of us. But I want you to look at how Utahns reacted the last 2 nights. There was no rioting, there was no looting, there were no cars set on fire, there was no violence. There were vigils and prayers and people coming together to share the humanity. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I believe is the answer to this. We can return violence with violence. We can return hate with hate. And that's the problem with political violence, is it metastasizes, because we can always point the finger at the other side. And at some point, we have to find an off-ramp, or it's going to get much, much worse. But see, these are choices that we can make. History will dictate if this is a turning point for our country. But every single one of us gets to choose right now if this is a turning point for us. We get to make decisions. We have our agency. And I desperately call on every American, Republican, Democrat, liberal, progressive, conservative, MAGA, all of us to please, please, please follow what Charlie taught me.
Some strong words here and moving words from the Utah governor speaking on this situation. Of course, for the people who are just joining us, the suspect in the Charlie Kirk assassination has been identified. It is 22-year-old, I've already forgotten the guy's name, Tyler Robinson, a Utah man who had become politically radicalized. But I do think the one point here is very interesting, is that people said, okay, now that this happened, the far right is going to riot. Now that this happened, we are going to see something that, I mean, not to sound dramatic, this isn't me coming up with this, but some people somewhat predicted a small-scale Civil War style thing starting to happen, similar to maybe the George Floyd riots. You know, people figured there would be large demonstrations in the street, potentially looting, but who knows? People predicted there could be all types of fallout from this. And I do think that's one of the interesting things that we're seeing now, is that there was none of that. There haven't been political riots. There hasn't been anything of that nature. And really what we've seen is large-scale mourning from the people who have been affected by this. We've seen large-scale prayer from the people affected by this. Now, of course, there's many people saying they've been further radicalized. But I think the right wing seems to be more strategic. And the right wing, for better or for worse, I'm not saying I necessarily agree, the right wing seems to play the long game a little better. They don't hit the streets and start smashing windows. They, I think, are becoming more politically savvy. And I think the right wing is going to use this to further their movement in constructive ways, rather than going and burning down cities. You know, that's not necessarily the style of the right. I think really the only main example we've seen of something similar to that was January 6th. When people just said, fuck it, all hell's going to break loose now. We're going to rain hell on the Capitol. That's an example. And I think people sort of anticipated that happening from this. But it is quite fascinating that the reaction has been quite the opposite. The reaction from people has been mourning and prayer, more so than it's been violence. And I think that possibly could be attributed to Charlie Kirk's message. Now, there's people who interpret Charlie Kirk's message in a lot of different ways. His supporters will tell you that he was a nonviolent guy who preached peace and who was opposed to violence. His detractors will tell you that he was Mr. Violent, that he preached violence in every sense of the word. So I guess it really depends who you ask and how they interpreted his message, and also which of his messages they were consuming at the time, as he did have many. But it is fascinating that we have not seen the large-scale violent fallout, at least yet. Again, there's still time. Who knows what's going to happen next? We wake up every day in this world the way things are going, and we don't know what's going to happen. But we haven't seen that on the scale in which it could have been predicted, on the scale of the George Floyd riots or anything of that nature. We have not seen that up until this point. It's about 60 more seconds of this speech, and then we're going to move on to some other content.
I'll just conclude with words I share often from a friend and author, Yuval Levin, who was asked if he was optimistic about our country. And he said, I'm not optimistic. He said, I hate optimism. Like, that sounds bad. But he said, optimism is a vice. It's this idea that good things are just going to happen. And he said, in the history of the world, good things have never just happened. He says, I'm not optimistic, but I am hopeful. And hope is the virtue that sits between the vices of optimism and pessimism. Hope is the idea that good things are going to happen because we can make them so. I still believe in our country. And I know Charlie Kirk believed in our country. I still believe that there is more good among us than evil. And I still believe that we can change the course of history. I'm hopeful because Americans can make it so.
End of the speech here from the Utah governor, guys, speaking on the suspect who has been apprehended by the name of Tyler Robinson. Now let's try to get into some more details about Tyler Robinson and look at exactly what the situation is with him. Again, I want to be careful to pull too much random stuff off of X because a lot of this can be unsubstantiated. A lot of this can just be hearsay. This statement from a high-profile X account at Mr. Andy Ngo says, Charlie Kirk assassination presser. Suspect Tyler Robinson allegedly wrote some Antifa phrases on fire casings, including, hey, fascist, and oh, bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, which are evidently lyrics to an old Italian protest song that is now used by Antifa as a theme song. See, I didn't know this. Rifle cartridges from the Charlie Kirk assassination are confirmed to be marked with these phrases. Let's see if we can find photos of the actual cases. That would be interesting to see. I'm not sure if there actually are photos of this. Again, if there's not photos, it's hard to substantiate some of these claims. There's a lot of information that goes around in a situation like this. And, you know, we can't just read everything.
Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. The family member also confirmed Robinson had a gray Dodge Challenger. Investigators identified an individual as the roommate of Robinson. Investigators interviewed that roommate, who stated that his roommate, referring to Robinson, made a joke on Discord. Investigators asked if he would show them the messages on Discord. He opened it and showed several messages to investigators and allowed investigators to take photos of the screen as each message was shown by Robinson's roommate. These photos consisted of various messages, including content of messages between the phone contact name Tyler with an emoji icon and Robinson's roommate's device. The content of these messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel.
Okay, so these are incredibly breaking details here, guys. So this was a very premeditated murder, because that was one of the things I was sort of trying to make sense of in my head. How was this guy able to get on the UVU campus with a rifle on a day like this? Because you would imagine that on any given day, it would be quite challenging to go undetected walking on a university campus, especially in today's climate, with a weapon of that size, in that caliber. That's going to be something that's going to draw a lot of attention to you. But now it's coming out that Tyler Robinson actually showed up to the UVU campus with the rifle concealed in a towel, left it at a drop point, which is still somewhat suspicious. I mean, if you see something, a rifle's not small. If you're looking at a rifle covered up in a towel, I mean, I think anybody passing by might have noticed that, but again, there's a chance that they couldn't. So now I guess he's not only planning this and leaving it there, but also telling people about this. I'm actually shocked about how many people he told about this. I mean, the family wanted to come out, and the family are the ones who turned him in, for the people who don't know. The family are the ones who actually made him confess, turned him into authorities after they found out he committed this murder. But why did nobody want to speak up when they knew this before? This guy's talking at family dinner about Charlie Kirk coming to UVU. He obviously opposed Charlie Kirk coming to UVU. He's telling people on Discord that he needs a rifle, that he needs to put a rifle at a drop point. I mean, maybe people just didn't take it seriously, but this probably could have been avoided if somebody had. I mean, it sounds like there was a lot of conversation and there was quite a paper trail leading up to this that someone could have intercepted.
Referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique. Messages from the contact Tyler also mentioned that he had changed outfits. I know there's been speculation as well as to the writing on those casings, those bullet casings, and I believe we have that as well. And I will share that with you now.
So apparently the writing on the casings is verified. I know I was saying earlier it sounded like it probably wasn't true. I mean, again, I'm not just going to read something that I see on X and say, yeah, this is the true story. I mean, you can't believe things that easily. But now the governor's saying there actually was messages such as, "Hey, fascist, catch," written on the actual bullet casings.
So the area north of Campus Drive Road where the suspect crossed over, you saw some of that in the video that we released last night, consists of a grassy area with trees on the edge of the UVU campus. Investigators discovered a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a dark-colored towel. The rifle was determined to be a Mauser Model 98 30-06 caliber bolt-action rifle. The rifle had a scope mounted on top of it. Investigators noted inscriptions that had been engraved on casings found with the rifle. Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices, bulges, capital OWO, what's this, question mark." Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist, exclamation point, catch, exclamation point." Up arrow symbol, right arrow, and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols.
Man, I'm getting a weird feeling all of a sudden. I'm getting a weird feeling. Does anybody else feel like this whole story is just not sounding right? Like, I'm listening to what they're telling us. I'm listening to what they're saying. But something feels off about this. There's so many inconsistencies here in something that should be relatively easy to solve on a campus with this many cameras. This is occurring in broad daylight. There was a paper trail of this. This dude was telling people openly on Discord what he was going to do. I mean, something just feels incredibly off about this whole story. I don't know exactly what it is. I can't put my finger on it. But people are saying it feels like a psyop, and it does feel like a psyop in a way. Something just, I don't really buy something about this. And you guys are asking me what? I don't have the answers. But something is feeling, I feel like there's more to this. That's what I would say. What do you guys think? I want to read what you guys have to say. We're going to go ahead and take a look at some more content. Again, if you guys want breaking news updates on all of the biggest stories in pop culture, world events, entertainment, and beyond, make sure to subscribe to stay in the loop. I'm live and posting content every single day. We're going to take a look at one of the animations that actually breaks down how this was done and maps out the assassination, because I think it's something that's going to help people wrap their minds around this. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around aspects of this. So let's take a look. Why are people saying I look like the shooter? Can you guys stop saying that? I look nothing like this guy. You guys are crazy. I don't look anything like this guy.
On September 10, 2025, Charlie Kirk was assassinated. This is the possible position where the assassin had a clear line of sight from a building located about 430 feet away. The assassin squeezed the trigger and a single bullet traveled this distance and struck Charlie Kirk right in the neck. More detail all in the video ahead. Charlie Kirk was tragically assassinated at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah, stage under a large white tent emblazoned with the tour's banner. He was sitting and speaking into a microphone, facing hundreds of students.
You guys say I look like him? You guys gotta be joking, bro. I don't look like this guy. I take offense to that. Which picture do I look like him? Okay, maybe here. Okay, maybe with the hat. Look, ready? Now, fuck you guys. Don't say that. Don't tell people that. This stays here. We don't speak of this outside of the chat.
Along the main walkway and gathered around the stage. The crowd was estimated at over 3,000 attendees, including students and visitors.
Crazy.
Meanwhile, on the rooftop of the Losey Center building, a person dressed entirely in black was seen. This building was approximately 430 feet, about 131 meters, from where Kirk and his team were stationed on the stage. The rooftop provided a clear vantage point with open sightlines directly to the event area. Security footage and numerous eyewitness accounts have confirmed that the gunshot rang out from this rooftop location while Kirk was actively speaking. The bullet struck Kirk in the neck, causing him to collapse on the stage. But how did the assassin escape despite the huge crowd? The assailant's use of distance, the campus layout, and what is believed to be a scoped firearm indicate a high degree of planning and precision. The shooter chose an elevated, concealed position to avoid close detection and maximize the chances of escape. Here is the bullet trajectory. Given this altitude, the assassin had a clear, unobstructed line of sight directly to the stage where Charlie Kirk was standing and addressing the crowd. The bullet's trajectory descended steeply and accurately through open space to strike Kirk in the neck, which strongly suggests the use of a scoped firearm designed for long-range precision. As soon as
So he had a really clear shot and he was lying down, because that's one of the things we were talking about on yesterday's stream, How was he able to get this shot off? But again, why do we have large open areas on rooftops when there's people speaking, when there's people who want them dead? Did we not learn from the President Trump assassination attempt that if there's a rooftop nearby, like, this should be basic security protocol for anybody who has enemies like this, who's making a public appearance in broad daylight in an open space? Why in the world is there not at least one guy near the open roof which has an unobstructed view of the speaker? Have we not learned anything from Thomas Crooks, folks? Have we not learned anything from when Trump was almost murdered? Why is there always an open rooftop with an unobstructed view that nobody is standing anywhere near? There's only so many buildings in the area. Like, we're looking at the picture here. Look, there's one building. I want to make sure you guys can see this. There's one building with an unobstructed view of this incident that there was nobody near. Because there was, I don't know if you guys can see where my mouse is circling, but in the area near the stage, there was plenty of people around. So if somebody was up on one of those roofs, I'm sure people would see it. Are we not thinking? Like, even me with no security experience, if I was anywhere near security detail, I would do 1 360 of the site and say, that roof right there, get a guy up on that roof. It takes so little to prevent an incident like this. It literally takes nothing. It would take one cop, one security member, at least on the roof. If this guy's able to get onto the roof, that's a major red flag.
The shot was fired, the gunman likely retreated to an entrance on the top of the building. Despite security efforts, the shooter disappeared without a trace, climbing down from the building and blending into nearby campus structures or escape routes surrounding the Losey Center. Witnesses reported that panic broke out immediately after the shot. The audience scattered, seeking shelter as shouts of "Get down" and "Run" echoed across the courtyard. Campus police and Kirk's personal security team moved swiftly to secure the area and evacuate Kirk. Here is the detailed timeline of how it happened, 12 o'clock p.m.
Now, a lot of people are saying that this was a crazy long-range shot. Again, I had a guy who shot a bunch of guns call in yesterday, and he was telling me that this is an insane level shot for somebody to do. And then other people are saying this is an easy shot to make. What do you guys think in the chat? Was this a pretty, I don't want to use the word impressive. Was this a pretty skilled shot that it would take someone who knows what they're doing? Or is this an easy shot to make? I want to see what you guys have to say.
September 10th.
And again, it doesn't need to be his personal security. Obviously, Charlie Kirk doesn't have Secret Service detail. But you can't put one cop near the open roof where the guy is sitting there with an unobstructed view. One cop could have prevented all of this.
2025. Event begins. Charlie Kirk began the event, with more than 3,000 people gathered to attend. The security detail consisted of 6 officers along with Kirk's personal security team. 12:20 p.m., lead up to the shooting. Kirk was seated at the debate table, answering questions from students. The discussion touched on sensitive topics such as mass shootings and gun violence. Kirk remained calm and composed as he responded to a question about mass shooters, still holding the microphone while seated. The atmosphere was lively but controlled, many sitting close to the stage while others watched from nearby balconies and standing areas. 12:22 to 12:23 p.m., the assassination. Suddenly, a loud gunshot echoed through the courtyard. Kirk was hit in the neck while speaking. Within minutes, immediate response, campus police. But first, let's take a closer look at how the Secret Service works to prevent assassinations.
Well, obviously they don't work that goddamn well. And again, I know Charlie Kirk doesn't have Secret Service, but that's one of the things. I think this whole situation with all these assassinations, whether it's Trump or whether it's Charlie Kirk, has really made me lose faith in these security teams and in Secret Service in general. Like, there's always been this idea that if you are anywhere near, for example, the president, because that's what they're showing here now, I think they're breaking down Trump. If you're anywhere near him with a weapon, you'll be killed. They'll see you before you even know that you're coming. They're going to see you before you blink. At the end of the day, guys, Secret Service are just people. It's not like there's some superhumans who can really do much of anything. That's kind of what I've learned from all this.
Closest to the principal, in this case Trump, are teams of around 5 to 7 highly trained Secret Service agents. In the 100-foot radius that is the middle perimeter, there's usually a mix of Secret Service and local law enforcement. An armored SUV or limousine is also on standby within this middle perimeter.
So this is going to break down the whole situation of President Trump's assassination attempt. So we're getting a little bit off topic here. Oh, look at that. My stream pops up first, guys. 868 watching on the latest update, guys. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe for breaking news updates almost every single day. So we're going to take a look at some more details. I did want to roll, speaking of people getting near the president or getting near people, I did want to roll this footage of the protesters who got near Trump. Again, this is exactly what I'm talking about. When I say I'm losing my faith in the Secret Service, or I've lost my faith in the Secret Service, this is what I mean. Because if the Secret Service was actually legit, situations like this would not be happening. Look how close these protesters got to the president the other night when he was at dinner.
Trump, you are not welcome here! Yes, he is! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Trump is the Hitler of our time!
Bro, they're across the table from him. Look at the Secret Service just standing there. I swear they want to kill him. Like, I swear the Secret Service wants Trump dead. What is this? I thought Secret Service would have you, like, gunned down the second you got an inch from the president. Why are there people across a table at a restaurant shouting in the president's face and nobody is doing anything? Look at these guys standing behind him. What are you paid for?
Free Palestine! Trump is the Hitler of our time!
So he has to tell them to get them out. He's like, what are you idiots doing standing here? Look at him. He's like, what am I? Yeah, he's like, you're fired. They're terrible Secret Service. They're terrible people. Very sick people. Sick individuals. But bro, like, what is this? Chop, chop. Get him out.
He's terrorizing the communities all over the world, from Puerto Rico to the Philippines, to Venezuela. He is terrorizing.
Like, why are you still standing, lady? Again, I don't think they should have been, like, severely harmed, but tackled maybe? I mean, you're literally screaming in the face of the President of the United States and nobody is doing anything.
Communities! He is not welcome to D.C. He's not welcome to Palestine. Palestine is not for sale.
He's not welcomed in D.C. is crazy. I'm pretty sure he's welcomed in D.C. when he lives at the White House. Not welcomed in D.C. The president is not welcomed in Washington, D.C. Bro, that's wild.
Free D.C. Free Palestine! Shame on you all!
Just casually escorted out. This is insane, bro. They can't want to protect him that much. Yeah, I don't think anybody should be severely harmed, but hands behind their back? Why does Trump have to tell them to get out? That's crazy. Look at him. Come on, let's go. Let's go. That is wild. We're going to take a look at some more details about the shooter. So we're going to find out everything we know so far. Again, guys, if you don't know, the man has been identified as Tyler Robinson. This is the man who shot and killed Charlie Kirk. He has been apprehended by the FBI, and they are seeking the death penalty, hopefully for him. They're hoping for it, is what I'm saying. So this is a very serious situation. Here's a video of him getting away. So this was the initial footage that actually came out of him on the roof. And this was why people thought that this was some sort of agent, government agent, some sort of trained person. Because the way he jumps off the roof after doing this, like he kind of moves like a stunt man. Like the way he executes, it doesn't seem like a regular guy could just jump off a roof like this. Again, this is all speculation, but it is quite odd that he was able to make this escape so clean without even somewhat stumbling after jumping off a roof that was quite high.
Now, a big development in the murder of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Law enforcement just releasing new video taken
We're gonna make sure you guys can see that full picture here.
Charlie Kirk. Law enforcement just releasing new video taken right after the shooting of the suspect, they say, making his escape.
Eyewitness News reporter Josh Einiger here now with the breaking details. Josh.
Mike and Sade, in the past hour, the governor of Utah appealed to the public for help in catching the shooter, who so far has eluded the dragnet now for a day and a half. This despite more than 7,000 digital...
Someone said, why did you do it? Bro, if one more person says I look like the shooter, I'm going to crash out. I'm dead ass gonna crash out. You tell me that I look like this guy? No resemblance.
Tips, more than 200 eyewitness interviews, and a reward that tops $100,000. All of that, and still no suspect. Tonight, the FBI released new video of the gunman after the shooting as he runs across a roof from which he took that shot, climbs down to the ground, and runs away. Seemingly,
bro, look at that. Look at that execution. This is see, that's why I was running with the theories that it was some sort of trained assassin. That jump was clean. Look at that jump. That's a pretty high roof. Like, it doesn't look that high from here, but I wouldn't jump off that roof. I feel like I'd break my friggin' ankle jumping off that. Look at him go. This dude's like John Wick.
Conservative movement's most beloved and controversial figures. But one night after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, investigators are baffled.
We have 20 federal, state, and local law enforcement partners that are working shoulder to shoulder to find the person who committed this horrific crime.
The likely suspect appears in cell phone video as people duck for cover. That dark figure on a rooftop
is the... Oh, wow, look at that. So you could kind of see it if you were on the stage, like if you were looking. Man, if only somebody would have seen it.
Man police are looking for. Investigators releasing new still images too, in hopes someone knows who he is.
We can start healing by finding this perpetrator and holding him.
Yeah, I'm not going to play the details of them trying to find him. So I want to see if we can. Yeah, here's some more details. Let's get into some more details about the actual shooter. This one says. Everything we know. This is the type of stuff I'm trying to report on, guys. We're putting the work in. It's 2 a.m, by the way, in my time zone, guys. I am up putting the work in to bring you guys these breaking details. I'm having a lot of fun with you guys. So all the new subscribers, all the new viewers, thank you for being here. I'm trying to give you guys the show I never saw on TV, bringing you the straight facts.
Well, first off, a major sigh of relief right now that this suspect is in custody, this arrest being made overnight. Let's get into what we know about 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. Robinson lives in Washington County, Utah. It's in the southwestern part of the state of Utah. It's roughly 3 hours south of where he allegedly killed Charlie Kirk as Kirk was speaking on his college tour at Utah Valley University in front of thousands of people. Now, I'll talk about how Robinson allegedly escaped initially, according to authorities. We'll get into that in just a moment, but I want to get into some of the things that we've learned about how this arrest went down. Utah Governor Spencer Cox spoke this morning saying it was Robinson's family that ended up turning Robinson in. They say that Tyler Robinson, this 22-year-old, had become more political in recent years.
Where am I? Not North America. That's for goddamn sure. I fled quite some time ago.
Family members said that he openly spoke about Charlie Kirk. He openly spoke about not liking Charlie Kirk and his views. In fact, at a dinner recently before September 10th, when this shooting happened, he had mentioned that Charlie Kirk was going to be at Utah Valley University on his campus tour. Now, these are pictures that law enforcement put out yesterday in hopes that someone would realize who killed Charlie Kirk, and that tactic appears to have worked because Robinson's family looked at these images and they realized that Tyler Robinson was potentially the person who did this. And according to the FBI, Tyler's family confronted him, then with the help of a friend, and asked whether he was the person who did this. And after that, with the help of a friend, President Trump said it was a minister, they took Tyler Robinson to the police station in Washington County, Utah, so he could face charges for the murder of Charlie Kirk. Now, here is what Utah Governor Spencer Cox said about that.
On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident. This information was relayed to the Utah County Sheriff's Office and scene investigators at Utah Valley University. This information was also conveyed to the FBI. Investigators reviewed additional video footage from UVU surveillance and identified Robinson arriving on UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 a.m. on September 10th, in which he is observed on video in a plain maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, a black hat with a white logo, and light-colored shoes. When encountered in person by investigators in Washington County on September 12th in the early morning hours, Robinson was observed in consistent clothing with those surveillance images. Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. The family member also confirmed Robinson had a gray Dodge Challenger.
So here's the video that was released last night that allegedly shows Robinson escaping. He drove to campus that day and he drove away from Orem, Utah. And they say they were able to track him going south back to his home in Washington County, Utah.
That's crazy. So he drove there, shot a guy in broad daylight, walked back to his car and drove away. That's wild, man. Like, in today's day and age, because this is the day and age that everybody says you can't get away with murder anymore. You can't get away with murder in 2025. Dude, if this guy wasn't so sloppy with it, if he didn't leave such a paper trail, dropping hints to his family, sending messages on Discord, telling people he needed a rifle. I mean, this is the sloppiest assassin, definitely not a trained assassin like the theories were saying, ever. But if this dude wouldn't have left such a paper trail, the insane part is he actually might have gotten away with this for quite some time. I don't know who installed the security cameras at UVU, but they need to be fired. He only got away, he only got caught because he was exposed by his family and he left a paper trail. They may not have caught him for quite some time, at least, if it wasn't for that, which is insane. That is, in 2025, with the amount of people with camera phones, everybody has a camera in their pocket, bro. And he got away with it for a couple of days. That's wild.
Now, another key piece of evidence is the digital footprint that Robinson appears to have left behind, because Governor Cox also said that Robinson talked online on the platform Discord about picking up a bolt-action rifle with a scope with other users. Now, Cox does believe that Robinson
Damn, that's the guy? Bro, that's a crazy piece of weaponry. So to the chat who's very pro-Second Amendment, does this change your minds at all or no? I just want to see the chat light up with all the different opinions. I'm just asking. Do you guys still think like everybody needs this or no?
Acted alone, and no more arrests are expected at this time. We did notice in the social media pictures that we have found for Robinson that he appears to be wearing the same Converse shoes that the FBI talked about when they released pictures to the public saying that he was wearing Converses with white soles, and you can see the comparison right there. Now, it is clear that this alleged attack was politically motivated, but it's not just because of who Charlie Kirk was, this major voice.
Nobody's saying that's the gun he used. I said that's a crazy piece of weaponry.
For young conservatives in this country who would draw major crowds, thousands of people, to hear him speak and debate others, but politically motivated because of what was inscribed on the bullets that were found inside the high-powered bolt-action rifle that the FBI says that Robinson left behind. Now, on those bullets, there were several messages. That included one that said, "Hey, fascist, catch." And there was another that said, quote, "If you read this, you are gay."
Wait, what? What the hell? If you read this, you are gay. Bro, what type of stupid message? But this photo breaks my heart. I don't even want to look at this photo.
LMAO. Now, here's more of what investigators have detailed about the bullets and the gun. Spencer Cox, the governor of Utah, speaking at that news conference this morning.
So the area north.
And Governor Cox has said this will be a death penalty case. Here's more of that.
Okay, so it will be a death penalty case. Now, I would imagine someone in government, whether it's Trump or his administration, is probably going to jump in to make this a quick trial, because I cannot see this dude getting fed every day in prison for years. I don't see that happening. I think Trump is going to sign, and what do you guys think? Am I right or wrong? I think Trump is probably going to sign some kind of executive order. He's probably going to do something. I mean, to speed this up, because I know they can't quite do it yet because of due process, but I have a feeling they're going to find a way. I think Trump has an axe to grind when it comes to this, because this is personal. When we see Trump there saying that he was like a son to him, Charlie Kirk was like a son to him, I think this is going to be different.
Also legal in the federal government, and Governor Cox has said this will be a death penalty case. Here's more of that news conference that happened this morning announcing the arrest of Tyler Robinson, now the accused killer of conservative influencer Charlie Kirk.
We got him. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend.
Cassius and Luigi is diabolical.
Who contacted the
You
Washington
guys are fucking nuts.
County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident. This information was relayed to the Utah County Sheriff's Office and scene investigators at Utah Valley University. Robinson had a gray Dodge Challenger. I'm
going to skip this guy because we've heard a lot from him. Let's listen to what FBI director had to say, Cash Patel.
Of the FBI, Cash Patel.
Thank you, Governor. This is what happens when you let good cops be cops. The FBI and our partners are proud to stand here today together to bring justice to the family of Charlie Kirk and honor his memory. I want to express my deep gratitude to President Trump, the Vice President, and the entire White House who have been so incredibly supportive with both resources and just personally to the FBI as a team. They had our backs the entire way, and I just want to express my gratitude for giving us the resources we need to operate in this space to bring this sort of justice at this sort of speed. In 33 hours, we have made historic progress for Charlie. Governor Cox, our partnership has been absolutely incredible these last few days. Our partnership will endure. Your state and local partners, your sheriffs, your DPS community has been unbelievably impressive in the hardest of times. And a case like this cannot be solved, cannot be brought without partnering with your state and local authorities. The FBI has a certain role to play, and we will play that role, and we will lead out for the federal government. But Governor Cox, we are so grateful for your state partnership that led out on this investigation. A little bit of the timeline. Charlie was shot at 12:23 p.m. on Wednesday. The first FBI agents arrived on scene in 16 minutes with chiefs of police at 12:39 and secured the scene. The FBI immediately launched fixed-wing assets. We utilized these assets to transport personnel, specialty technicians, hostage rescue teams. We also utilized these assets to go back and forth from the East Coast and here in Utah to transport forensic evidence and other evidence that will be analyzed and is being analyzed at our FBI laboratories in Quantico and other laboratories, including the ATF. At my direction, the FBI released the first set of FBI photos of the suspect at 10 a.m. local time on 9/11. Then, shortly thereafter, the FBI reward of $100,000 was released at 10:45 a.m. local. Myself and Deputy Director Bongino arrived on the scene at approximately 5:30 p.m. on 9/11. The governor led a press conference last night at approximately 8 p.m. where at my direction, the FBI released a never-before-seen video of the suspect. We also released new images to the public of the suspect.
So he's going to sit there and tell us everything we already saw. What do you guys think of Cash Patel, by the way? I see a lot of mixed reactions in the chat so far. I see some people... I'm seeing a lot of hate against Cash Patel. And I got to tell you guys, when it came to Trump's new administration, I figured there were two people who would be pretty strong regardless of where you stand politically, whether you're left or right. I thought Cash Patel would be a pretty strong asset. This is for the government in general. This isn't about Trump's administration in particular. I thought Cash would be a good asset for the overall government, and I thought Tulsi Gabbard would be a pretty good asset for the government. Sadly, from at least where I'm sitting, I don't think either one of them are doing that well. I mean, I think that both of them are actually starting to look quite bad when it comes to, you know, Tulsi Gabbard had the whole thing where Trump basically undermined her and said he doesn't give a damn what she says. That makes her look terrible. That makes the whole administration look awful. But then Cash Patel with the Epstein files going on Joe Rogan, Joe CIA Fed Rogan on his podcast, who's obviously at this point no better than a Fed. Dude is more compromised than the FBI itself. But going on there and looking like there's a gun to the back of his head, sweating, saying, there's no Epstein files. No, there's no Epstein files. Doesn't exist. I'm not getting into that. Bro, you're the only person in the world who needs to get into that, Cash. Cash Patel, you need to get into the Epstein files because we want the answers. Why is the director of the FBI... Oh, I'm not going to answer. You're the guy. You took the job. Is it because your boss is in it? I mean, why do you not want to talk about it? Why don't you want to talk about Elon? Why don't you want to talk about any of the shit that you're supposed to be talking about? Now, Elon, he can pass. He doesn't have to talk about Elon, to be fair. I take that part back. But why are you not talking about the Epstein files? Cash Patel went on like a press run before getting this job about how he has to get these files out. It's imperative to put out the Epstein files for the good of the American people. Where are they at? Now, I've seen people this whole time talking about the Epstein files in the chat, and I want to hear what you guys have to say. Like, let's just take a survey right now. Should they release the Epstein files, and is Cash Patel wrong? Just yes or no. Should they release the Epstein files? Because from where I'm sitting, look, I'm just going to say this before we continue with the details on the suspect, okay? Just to get it out of the way with the Epstein stuff. My personal belief is that morally they should release the Epstein files. I think it would be important to release those files, and it would go a long way for transparency. However, We are never getting the Epstein files because I think everybody's in them. When you look at the connections, I want to see if I can pull this up really quick. Somebody sent me something. I don't know if I can get it on my computer. I'll see if I can. Somebody sent me something of just how deep the links go. Damn it. I don't think I can get it on my computer because Instagram makes you sign in. Let me just show you guys really quick. Ghislaine Maxwell with Princess Diana. Robert Maxwell and Ghislaine Maxwell with Queen Elizabeth. And then Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. Now, we have to remember Robert Maxwell is one of the main people implicated in this as well. But this just shows how deep it is. Robert Maxwell with Princess Diana. Okay. Mother Teresa with Robert Maxwell. Do you guys want to know how deep this shit goes? Hang on a second. But wait, there's more. Prince William as a child with King Charles and Robert Maxwell. How far? I got more slides to go. George Bush Sr. We can go all day, folks. So here's the deal. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Who's that? President Trump. Uh-oh. Not President Trump. No, he wouldn't be in there, would he? Give me a fucking break, guys. Wake up, okay? Everybody's in it. Do you understand? Everybody. Yeah, Mother Teresa is crazy, bro. Mother Teresa. What the fuck? That's the craziest one, bro. Mother Teresa is insane. But yeah, let me cook for a second. Here's the deal. If you think that there's any chance in hell that we are getting these files, you are insane. Because everybody is in them. Now, this is all I'll say. Here's my take on the Epstein files. The fact that we're never going to get them, and the way that this has been handled, tells us everything we need to know. So it's almost as if they did release the files by not releasing the files. Do you understand where I'm going with this? Not releasing the files is simply the biggest admission of guilt that they could give. That's what I say on the Epstein files.
Evidence has been seized. State and local authorities, along with federal authorities, processed that crime scene quickly. And I even had the ability to walk through that crime scene and walk through the steps the suspect took to learn more about what was needed and what resources we needed to bear to create a full picture for the FBI and leadership back in Washington. Furthermore, thankfully to state and local partners, forensic evidence has been seized and continues to be garnered. Forensic evidence has already been evaluated at FBI laboratories in Quantico and state and local authorities here. We will continue to process evidence as we see it, as we collect it, and we will continue to
Cash Epstein Patel.
Deliver to Governor Cox and his team.
Very bad.
Last night we had a total of approximately 7,000 7,000 leads. As of this morning, thanks to your great work, we have over 11,000 leads that were called in to the FBI. And we are running out every single lead that we can. Every one of those leads will be run out. The arrest is a testament to the dedication of good law enforcement being great, and partnerships in law enforcement, which I've tried to highlight as my tenure as the director of the FBI. There is no better relationship for law enforcement than the FBI to partner with state and local authorities, and you've seen it here in these last few days. The FBI Salt Lake field office, along with our offices in LA, Phoenix, Denver, San Antonio, Las Vegas, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, our headquarters component in Quantico, all participate in the FBI. I want to express my deep gratitude to the employees of the FBI, the men and women, the evidence response team tacticians, the special operators, the agents, the support staff. You have done monumental work in historic time when the public, who had a right to demand such an expeditious solving of an investigation, the FBI answered that call diligently, critically important to our nation, and we delivered. And I'm proud to be their leader, and I'm proud to be the director of the FBI.
You don't seem proud, Cash, because you don't want to do your job. Like, I feel like Cash Patel came into this, like, we're hard on Cash Patel, but we don't know what he knows. I feel like this dude came into this probably with some pretty genuine intentions. And then they were like, okay, Cash, you're in the government now. Here's the information. Let's give him everything. Let's give him the files. Let's give him all the information that he needs. And he saw all the info and he's like, oh, shit. Like, Cash Patel seemed to me like a guy who had like a naive faith in government to a degree. Like a naive sort of faith in the goodwill of government, the goodwill of the people involved. He probably took a look at those files and he's probably like, yeah, I like being alive. Life, death, I'll probably choose living. Imagine the things this guy knows.
Thank you, and good morning. I would just like to take a few minutes as the sheriff to express my gratitude for everybody who has played a part in this investigation. As you know, it's been a vast, a complicated, and a very, very fast-paced investigation. You're looking at people standing up here who are running on, if they got an hour's sleep in the last couple of days, they're probably lucky. It has been very taxing. It has been so impressive, speaking on behalf of the local law enforcement, to see the cooperation that we've seen in this type of case. Across the state, sheriffs, chiefs, our state partners have stepped up and have come to the call on anything that we needed. Our county chiefs have been phenomenal. Our Utah County Attorney, Jeff Gray, who's standing up here with us, has been phenomenal in leading us through this investigation. I would like to thank the federal government for their resources, their assets, our local team here.
All right, this isn't telling us anything. Let's move on to a couple more clips, guys. As we come to the end of the stream, we are passing, I mean, I'm not ending it now. We're close to the 2-hour mark. If you're enjoying this, make sure to sub up, hit that subscribe button, and thank you to everybody who already has. I'm posting videos and or going live every single day with breaking news updates to keep you guys informed. I want to take a look at some more reactions. So Candace Owens yesterday posted she did a live stream about Charlie Kirk, which amassed a whopping 4 million views in 20 hours. This is insane. I mean, you wonder why people are worried about the influence of these political figures. Candace Owens and people like Charlie Kirk and all these guys, they're doing bigger numbers than mainstream media, okay? That's insane. 4 million views in 20 hours on her opinion. But let's take a listen to the end of her statement on Charlie. I'm not going to play the whole video, but let's take a listen to what Candace Owens had to say at the end of her tribute.
Brothers and sisters, you know, we're always going to be brother and sister. And we would talk about things and debate things behind the scenes. And I think my perspective was as it's been throughout our relationship. You might not get it now, Charlie, but you will. I'm only a few years older than you, but I think you're gonna see things my way. And I think in the end, Charlie was going through a spiritual transformation. I don't think it. I know it. He was going through a lot, and there was a lot of pressure, and it's hard for me to watch the people who were pressuring him, I don't know, just say the things that they're saying. You know, there's something about it that just feels really fake to me. And they would have allowed him to lose and wanted him to lose everything for changing or even slightly modifying an opinion. And then to see them doing what they're doing today, it's hurtful to me. It's very hurtful to me. But I don't want today to be about anything other than you guys knowing that Charlie really was an amazing person. You know, he was like, we were really close. And he was my best friend and my brother. And I will never unsee the footage of what I saw, the violence of it. I pray for the people who took any pleasure in that.
Damn, she saw the footage. That's crazy. I can't imagine seeing the footage of your friend getting killed like that.
The violence of it. I pray for the people who took any pleasure in that. There's not a single person in the world that I would wish that on. And least of all, someone with a heart like Charlie's. He loved his family, he loved his wife, he loved his country. And he didn't deserve that ending. You know, he's really young. But I know that we will carry the torch. I will never allow the memory of Charlie to be forgotten, obviously, because there is no Candace without Charlie. You know, we came up in politics together. And so I don't know what else to say, guys, other than
Bro, why is everybody saying it's fake, her reaction? My chat's saying it too. I saw this all over the internet earlier because I saw little pieces of this, and everybody in the comments is saying she's crying crocodile tears. It's fake. Why do you guys think it's fake?
I'm in a lot of pain right now. And I love you, Charlie, and, you know, I'll see you when I'll see you. I love you very much. Thank you, guys.
Why do you guys think it's fake, though? I don't understand.
And it's hard for me to watch the people who were pressuring him, I don't know, just say the things that they're saying. You know, there's something about it that just feels really fake to me. And they would have allowed him to lose and wanted him to lose everything for changing or even slightly modifying an opinion. And then to see them doing what they're doing today, it's hurtful to me. It's very hurtful to me. But I don't want today to be about anything other than you guys knowing that Charlie really was an amazing person. You know, he was like, we were really close. And he was my best friend and my brother. And I will never unsee the footage of what I saw, the violence of it. I pray for the people who took any pleasure in that. There's not a single person in the world that I would wish that on. And least of all, someone with a heart like Charlie's. He loved his family, he loved his wife, he loved his country. And he didn't deserve that ending. You know, he's really young. But I know that we will carry the torch. I will never allow the memory of Charlie to be forgotten, obviously, because there is no Candace without Charlie. You know, we came up in politics together. And so I don't know what else to say, guys, other than I'm in a lot of pain right now. And I love you, Charlie, and, you know, I'll see you when I'll see you. I love you very much. Thank you, guys.
Now, you can tell she started to break down when the camera cut. Look.
When I'll see you. I love you very much. Thank you, guys.
They probably cut it right at that moment. I don't think it's fake. Like, the people saying it's fake, that's kind of a stretch. I think she's scared, bro. Like, if I was Candace Owens, I would be scared for my life right now. And I've been thinking this about Candace Owens because of anybody in the political sphere who's doing commentary like this, she is by far the wildest. Like, the shit she's doing, I just watch it and I'm like, God damn, this chick is crazy. Like, I think she has a lot of good points on certain issues. I think she has a lot of terrible points as well. But the shit she's doing with Brigitte Macron, I mean, she's crazy, bro. Like, she is putting herself in some very dangerous territory. And you got to think, she was sitting next to Charlie Kirk at all these events, like right next to him. She's probably terrified, dude. Like, honestly, like I say, I would be scared too. And I honestly wonder if she's like regretting all of this now. Because like, she has kids too. She's 36. I just was looking it up. She's 36. He was 31. I mean, she probably is feeling at fear for her safety. And part of me wonders if Candace Owens regrets putting herself in this corner, because there's no getting out. Like, the shit she's exposed, whether it's true or not, and the stuff she's talking about is reckless. For a woman with a family, she is reckless, man. And I would not be conducting myself that way if I had kids. There is no fucking chance in hell I would be doing this if I had children. Maybe if it was just me, it's a different story. But dude, like, I'm telling you, I hope she stays safe. But I was thinking, like, I wonder, and I'm not saying she does feel this way, I don't know her, but I'm saying I wonder if she ever second guesses what she's done. Because here's what I see when I see Candace Owens. As somebody who's been broadcasting for 16 years myself, I started broadcasting as a kid. I've been doing this for 16, going on 17 years now. When I look at Candace Owens, I see an incredibly skilled and talented broadcaster. She does these live streams. She doesn't stutter once. She doesn't say she doesn't say She's an incredibly skilled on-air talent. And if Candace Owens had kept it, on different topics, Candace Owens would be Oprah right now. Candace Owens would be the biggest mainstream television talk show host, bigger than, Drew Barrymore, whatever. She would be like a Hollywood darling. I don't think she necessarily wants that, but part of me wonders, like, does she ever think about it? Because there's no turning back from what she's done. Again, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying it's extreme. Nobody can argue that it's extreme. Let's take a look at this.
News is unbelievably tragic. Tonight, as you know, you're all gathered here. We're going to talk tonight about the death of Charlie Kirk. And even saying that out loud, the words...
Here's another one. Here's another one who needs to chill.
Are still very surreal and disturbing. I said this last night, and I meant it as I watched the chaos and the tragedy unfold yesterday afternoon. And I know everybody else feels exactly the same way. It didn't feel real. That's the characterization I keep seeing from everybody on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter. People have been profoundly affected by this, and we're not sure why. And hopefully we can talk a little bit about maybe why that is. But as I said yesterday, like many of you, I got the alert from a friend of mine who I believe was either at the event or had friends at the event at UVU in Utah. A friend of mine texted me and said, Charlie has been shot. I said, Charlie Kirk? They said, yes. And we watched it unfold live. We're still getting updates. We don't know exactly what transpired. And again, we'll get into some of that as well. Some of the uncertainties and unanswered questions. But I am devastated. Charlie has been shot. I said, Charlie Kirk? They said, yes. And we watched it unfold live. We're still getting updates. We don't know exactly what transpired. And again, we'll get into some of that as well. Some of the uncertainties and unanswered questions. But I am devastated and legitimately affected and struck viscerally. Such a sensational video, images, such an unspeakable, horrible tragedy. And I literally had to take a day to collect myself. Normally, this is a current events show. I'm live every night. And I discuss the news of the day, and I've been there through many of the big developments over the years. same day, January 6th, Trump assassination attempt, the elections, the pandemic. But this one was different.
And for you guys who don't know, they have identified the suspects.
And especially his wife, his young children. You can only imagine what they're going through. And so what happened yesterday is still so raw and so sensitive. The country is profoundly affected, at least some of it is. We'll talk about that too. And so tonight I'm going to try to the best of my ability, carry out my responsibility. I believe, and I think you know, that I'm somebody that many of the young people, young conservatives are looking up to. I have a lot of credibility with the far right, the radical right. And throughout his career, Charlie Kirk always characterized me as a troll. I don't say that with any malice at this point in time, but that's what he said. And many in Turning Point USA said that I and my followers are nihilistic. We only want destruction. And I think that I have an obligation to the country. I think I have an obligation to God. I think I have an obligation to all of you. I think I have responsibility to prove that that is not true.
Man. Yeah, you can see it. You can see it in these conservative influencers. They're feeling this one, man. And again, how can you not feel it?
Way to take someone out. Now, the problem is, how much money could a private public figure be able to expend to have the type of detail that you would need? Counter snipers, drone technology, all of those things we see that are similar or consistent with protecting the President of the United States. If Charlie Kirk had the level of security, by way of example, that the president has, you're talking about millions.
Shauna was crashing
out.
A
Democrat, and in Michigan.
This dude is always crashing out. Shout out Vinny, man. I love Vinny. Vinny is like one of my favorite on-air personalities.
And even in the last 24 hours or so, what do we see from Laura Loomer on Ilhan Omar, the Democratic Congresswoman, Laura Loomer being a very senior MAGA person? At the end of the day, everyone needs to realize that Ilhan Omar is a bloodthirsty Muslim terrorist sympathizer who has no place in our country. Her presence in Congress is a national security threat, and she's an enemy from within. So please, the idea that there is some sort of asymmetry on this, the fact of the matter is, America and indeed the UK as well, we've got into a really negative cycle here where basically the temperature goes up and it goes up and it goes up. And then sometimes some of the people who are responsible for that
awful circumstances that we're talking on this Friday. But your response to what Lewis Goodall's just said, that this is a problem on all sides, that political violence has been ratcheting up and that there's a collective issue that needs to be dealt with.
Well, Piers, thank you for having me, and hello to everybody on the panel. Piers, I'm sorry, but trying to compare a photo of a Pelosi hammer for a Halloween thing to somebody getting shot in the neck in front of his family at a campus is unbelievable. The fact that you're trying to make the two comparison is absurd, okay? And if we want to, since you're on the left and you have those beliefs, give me something that the left is positive about. Because from what we're seeing, they're pro-abortion, they're pro-celebrating assassination, they're pro-open border. Give me something positive that the left is running on. Because at the end of the day, they're at the Democrats' 35-year low approval rating. And Piers, I have to go a little bit deeper. I have to go, this isn't about left, this isn't about right. Charlie was a proponent. He was a Christian praising Jesus Christ everywhere that he went. And I think that's where we are, Piers. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12 says, "For we not wrestle with flesh and blood," Piers. It's principalities, it's evil, it's dark forces in high places. And it drives me crazy, Piers, that we've gotten to this point. And when Tim Walz and these people are like, well, I woke up, I wanted to hear bad news. Hearing TMZ lying when their freaking people are back there cheering of a murder of a guy that did what, Piers? He went to college campuses. He was peaceful. He just wanted to have a debate, a conversation. And it is the left, okay? When Joe Biden got diagnosed with colon cancer, who was celebrating? How many thousands of people were out there praying and hoping for this guy to recover? Okay, no, there's something that's captured, Pierre. That image, that montage that you played, did you see the eyes of these people?
Yeah.
They are captured by something dark, and they don't even know it, Piers. That's where we are. And I want to say something, Piers, before I give it back. Charlie was not murdered. He was martyred. And I want to say this in the Bible, and I'm sorry, I never was this guy, Piers, but we're at the tipping point. We are here, and we have to understand that it's God or you're on the opposite side. And Revelation chapter 6, verse 9, 10 basically says, when a martyr's blood hits the throne of heaven, it turns the vengeance of the king towards the evil ones on earth. So for all the people that want to get mad and do something, stay calm and be easy, because God, at the end of the day, Piers, has vengeance on all these people that are spilling innocent blood.
Are you really saying that the American right, the Trump right, MAGA, has not got a problem with political violence?
Are you comparing us, who, by the way,
no, I'm asking
for
whether
how many years, have 10 years, hold on. Are you comparing the two? Hold on. I'm not saying that the right doesn't get violence, but show me where they're celebrating the murder of a father on a campus. Give it to me. Who celebrate Luigi Mangione, where he's in magazines and girls want to marry him and want to be with him?
No, you just have the president of the United States son. You just have the president of the United States son tweeting out a picture of a hammer, making fun of a guy who nearly got killed because of a right-wing maniac. Please do not tell me that somehow one side is more morally superior than the other. This is not. And just while we're talking about, excuse me, sir, while we're talking about political violence, what about January the 6th? What about January the 6th, where a MAGA mob decided to try to use violence to overthrow democracy?
Piers needs to get control of his show. I try to watch Piers sometimes, and I don't mind some of the panels he has, but he lets people just scream over each other, and it's like you can't even listen to it. I'll give it like 15 more seconds. You got to take control of your show, Piers. Piers has been doing this for longer than I've been alive, and this dude doesn't know how to control a panel.
Do me a favor. How many people died on January 6th? How many people?
I can't.
Excuse me, since you're such an American historian, how many people died on January 6th?
Know what happened on January
Ashley
6th,
Babbitt, a fellow United States.
Can't listen to this, guys. Piers is out of control. Piers is sitting there counting his money while these motherfuckers scream over each other.
You don't want to get.
Oh, did he wake up? Wakey, wakey, Piers. You're hosting a show.
Okay. But as an American who lives in America and is a veteran, we see what's happening. I don't care about your ChatGPT stats. The left is the party that is inciting the violence and causing the problem.
Okay. I want to bring in another guest now who will then join the panel for the rest of the...
Piers is hilarious, bro. Piers needs to get me on this show so I can actually start getting in these debates. So look, guys, I guess to really sum it up, the suspect has been caught. You know, where do you guys think this goes from here? It sounds like he's going to get the death penalty. Ultimately, I think it's quite shocking that it took days for this guy to be caught. But on top of that, I think it's quite shocking the fact that he was only caught because he was outed by family members, outed by people who knew him and who knew that he did this after they got him to confess. That's the only reason this guy was even caught in the first place. I think it's quite shocking. I think overall this situation and the situation with the Trump assassination attempt for me has really undermined my belief in not only the police, but the FBI and the Secret Service. And again, I know Charlie Kirk did not have Secret Service at his event. He doesn't have Secret Service detail, but I'm talking in general. All of this has really undermined my belief in them. The belief that you can't get away with murder anymore in the age of camera phones and security cameras everywhere you go. Evidently, you can get away with it at least for a couple days. And it's scary times, man. It's scary times. I think the world feels a lot more unsafe. After this thing with the Ukrainian immigrant, and I posted my video about Irina Zarutska, I dismantled CNN's panel for defending the killer. I encourage you guys to go and check that out after this stream on my channel, and make sure to subscribe while you're there. But ultimately, these issues have really undermined my faith in our systems. It's scary out there, man. It's every man for themselves. Look, if there was ever a time to learn self-defense, if there was ever a time to really fight for your own, it's now. I'm not encouraging violence, but what I'm encouraging is waiting for the cops to figure it out. It might be too late. So you got to be on your toes. Like, these are scary times. I don't know where we go from here, but I hope that we could start to get back to a better place. But I do think this will have a big ripple effect in the U.S. government. I think this will have a big ripple effect on the way that they handle crime. I think the conversation of the death penalty and quick trials is probably one of the biggest ramifications of this whole situation. I think that we're going to see major reform in the way that these situations are handled, in the way that these situations are dealt with. We're going to see big changes coming very, very soon to crime in America. And I mean, that's been Trump's main focus for the past couple of months, it seems. He has been cracking down on crime like never before. And I think these two scenarios, especially due to the fact that we watched the interview off the top, that he was calling Charlie Kirk like a son to him. We've never heard him speak about someone like this. So Trump is already passionate about cracking down on crime, obviously based on what he says. But now that it's personal like this, I think we're going to see a whole new level of, you think he was cracking down before? Just wait to see what he does next. That's my prediction. I mean, this is serious stuff. So we will continue to stream. If there are any other major updates about this situation, I will hop on live. Guys, I appreciate everybody for stopping in. We've done hundreds of thousands of views in these streams in the last couple of days. And to everybody who's just joining us, we are just getting started. I have barely even began on my coverage of breaking news, breaking events. We also have exclusive interviews. I do have some political figures coming on, political commentators, some people that I'm not even going to jinx it or reveal it too soon. But the people we have coming on this channel, it's going to change everything. Really, really big stuff is coming. So I appreciate you guys for being there. God bless each and every one of you. And most of all, stay safe. Be aware of your surroundings. Don't walk around with your head in your phone. Don't walk around with headphones on anymore. This is not the time. This is the time to be vigilant. This is the time to be prepared for anything. Trump ain't going to save you. Biden, Kamala, whoever, they're not going to save you. The FBI is not going to save you. The police aren't going to save you. This is every man for himself season. This is every man and his family for themselves. Because obviously we're losing our grip. Obviously we're losing our systems. Thank you for being here, guys. Thank you, Ali. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Shout out Marlon, Ziggy, Sean, Coco. Shout out Coco. Third person in the chat. Crossfiles. I love you guys, man. God bless.